Shepard Commander, help us.
Legion is my friend. More importantly, it's our best source of information on the Geth.
We request your trust.
There'd be more trust if you told me about this plan back on the Normandy.
While Shepard Commander removed the Reaper infection, we judged we could persuade hostile Geth programs to reunite with ours.
Why didn't you tell me any of this?
We did not doubt you. We doubted your allies.
Commander, we've located the Reaper base transmitting the local signal.
Good.
And not a moment too soon. With the Reaper code upgrades, the Geth are tearing the fleet apart.
Once the signal is disabled, the Geth will pose no threat to Creator forces.
You sound conflicted.
While the old machines have unethical purposes, their upgrades have vastly improved our people. Observe.
A Geth processing signal. A single unit, I believe.
Correct. Now, 10 nearby units networked cooperatively. Now, a single Geth unit with the old machine upgrades.
That's a fully evolved AI.
Yes, we do not agree with the goals of the old machines, but we find this growth beautiful, indicative of life.
Sure, they're more complex. But saying they're alive...
They have evolved,
They were upgraded.
and they will die for it,
They allied with the Reapers.
to save themselves from you.
Maybe they don't have to die.
You don't even think they're alive.
But I do think they're useful.
Commander, are you suggesting...
I'm not suggesting anything. All I'm saying is maybe they don't all have to die.
It's a moot point until we take out that base.
Greetings once again, everyone. Welcome back to another round of Arbitration Studios as we continue our journey across the whole damn thing of Mass Effect 3. I'm JP Arbiter.
And I'm Captain Jack.
And we are finishing the Geth-Quarian War on Rannoch. I hope you paid attention to that preamble because it's going to justify some decisions moving on. The short version is we are going to kill the Geth.
Yeah.
It's not a popular decision. Most people would prefer to initiate peace between the Quarians and the Geth, myself included. But one, you don't see that on a whole lot of playthroughs, so I wanted to differentiate us a little bit.
Yeah.
Two, destroying the Geth is, for want of a better word, justified in my mind. And this sequence right here of the Geth are better than that, and Legion refuting us saying, nope, clearly we're not. It's Legion, as a terminal of the Geth, has made some very questionable calls. And yeah, the activation of the Geth primes and the liberation of the programs that operate them is one aspect of it.
I don't think it's really
The whole fact that, for me, the Geth were originally trying to reach this state of meta afterlife by crafting a mega structure where all Geth programs can just be housed, feed off of a sun, and, maybe in like 60 gajillion years they have to move to a younger star. That was a beautiful societal goal for a non-individual civilization. And I do see the Geth as a civilization. And thus I do see the elimination of the Geth as a genocide. So I acknowledge full wit what I'm about to do here. Here's the problem. It is, from my perspective, after giving it a whole lot of thought, it is clear that the Reapers have influenced the Geth too far in the wrong direction. And the justification is that they're just using Reaper upgrades or just using Reaper computer code. It's not control per se. I don't buy it, and I don't know if I can risk it. It's too much of an unknown that the Geth have fundamentally changed their goals literally in the 6 months that we have been in lockup. And probably sooner.
When it comes to the Geth, I'm gonna have two minds. One agrees with you, 100%, and the one that I normally go with as I go through the playthrough is they are a resource that I want to harness. And I want to take them away from the Reapers because they are a resource. They are a very good resource against the Reapers. Now, that being said, I don't like neither of those disagree. Like either or, I'm happy with. I'm not. A lot of people are kind of wedded to the idea that the good way is to like incorporate and come together and bring harmony and bring balance to the galaxy,
Yeah.
which is fine unless that
I would like to point out that Anakin Skywalker did fulfill the Jedi prophecy about bringing balance to the Force, because in the end there were two in original canon before like the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch and you find out that Emperor Palpatine was really bad at Order 66.
Yes.
But the whole idea as originally written was that in the end there were two Jedi, Obi-Wan and Yoda, and there were two Sith, Vader and Palpatine.
Yep.
That sounds balanced to me.
Yeah. No.
So it is in this particular case, it is I view it as too much of a security risk. It's the same reason why, for like reintroducing the Rachni post their genocide was a massive risk because it was an unknown, and they give you a second chance at that, and the game penalizes you if you take that second chance to reconsider your decision. As it stands, nothing about the Geth heretics is gone.
No.
From this perspective.
Yeah.
So all of the memories of the Geth having worked with Sovereign are still there. All of the memories of the Geth who worship the Reapers are still there, and as Legion stated, fundamentally it comes out to from the Geth perspective, the Reapers and their divinity come out to a rounding error, and it is very much literal majority rule, 50% plus one and individual to determine if that's the path that the Geth are going to follow. Now you bring individuality into the Geth paradigm, and that makes them every bit as messy as organic species are. Only they have no concept of mortality. They have no real concept of ethics on an individual basis at this point. It is a whole lot of chaos down the line that, from my perspective, you cannot rely on, because now the Geth fundamentally will not be ruled by a consensus. It's just going to be as messy as every other society out there, where one person's opinion and the will to enforce is going to disrupt everything.
I think that with the Geth, one of the things that I've noticed when you introduce individuality to them, they lack the checks and balances that most, or in fact all individualistic species have, that keep them from just self-destruction, really.
And you actually see that in the whole existence of the heretics in the first place.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is that they were kind of already on their way to individuality, and that this schism should have happened in the first place, instead of accepting instead of accepting the consensus opinion, realizing that they were in the minority, and they were in an extreme minority.
Right.
From what I gather, I don't have a percentage because you're talking about individual virtual intelligences. So, the minority scale could have been in the millions, could have been in the billions for all we know.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But it's still the lack of checks and balances boils down to the Geth consensus. Primary consensus believed that the best solution was to let them go and seek their own future, and that's how we got into this mess from the get-go.
Right. And so to me, I'm like, okay, we've got a society that is, if they accept individuality, they have no laws, they have no rules, they have no rulers, they have no control, they have no, and it is not like you said earlier, it's not a risk that the galaxy can take, because we beat the Reapers, right? Mm-hmm. Now we've got this species of anarchistic AI floating around who have decided, hey, we're all going to do whatever the flip we want to do. Maybe we want to take over a Reaper corpse and restart whatever the Reapers were doing. That it's one of those things where it's I hate to go.
And the thing is that while the Geth as a consensus model would welcome the Quarians back under peaceful circumstances. First off, peaceful circumstances that they dictate.
Right.
So there is no attaining of consensus. The Quarians have to accept their terms as the Geth see it. So, so much for being high and civilized at that point. There's
right.
The Quarian return should be negotiated, not dictated.
Exactly.
And again, we talked about this previously. Why are the Geth even on Rannoch in the first place?
To me, that they're still on Rannoch shows that they're probably a little less AI. Like they're probably
they were never true AI to begin with.
I think that a lot of their programming controls their actions,
mm-hmm.
and because of that, they're not necessarily a straight up sentient species per se.
And you can't treat them as one. And if you
exactly.
And now by individualizing each individual Geth program, you break the thing that makes the Geth metastable.
Yeah, exactly. And you create this. You create a situation where there are potentially trillions of Project Overlord nonsense,
mm-hmm.
where they're like, we're going to take control over everything and we're going to do whatever the hell we want, and no one's going to be able to stop us. Because we can, and then you end up getting, you end up getting a Battlestar Galactica situation where they've decided, hey, we're going to hunt down and eradicate.
If the end state of artificial intelligence is a slave revolt in competition over resources, then the best thing to do is to deny that fight. And so, the best way to deny that fight is to pull the plug.
Yep. Now, here's the thing. I always hate to go all Imperium of Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really do. I am a Star Trek guy. I am a firm believer that, the races working together make each other stronger, not, and I do not look at an alien race and go, you're automatically, because you think differently and you are different from me, you're automatically my enemy. I'm not Imperium. But in the case of artificial intelligence, unless that artificial intelligence, I've only seen it done a couple of ways where I was like, you know what? This I can accept. It's too alien from biologically evolved intelligence and sentience to interact with on a safe.
And the fact of the matter is that fail state, it can be laid directly on the hands of the principal writer change between Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, because again, the Geth goals in Mass Effect 2, as they were stated, the Geth were an enigma, and deliberately so in Mass Effect 1. They were, one, you wanted a disposable bad guy. That's just all there is to it. It is a lot easier to not have to worry about motivations with a renegade force if they're literally mindless automata.
Absolutely.
But with the introduction of Legion, the introduction of the Heretic faction, and the explanation of Geth societal goals, it created a really elegant solution for the cultivated species problem. Of what you're giving. Fundamentally, you're giving a child nuclear weapons by introducing, by having them be on the world stage at this point in their societal development. And the Geth consensus knew that their cultural development was incomplete. That's why they didn't follow the Quarians.
Right.
So it's
we'll get it done.
Just I fall back on that. Too many unknowns, and the change from the hyper consensus, which is fundamentally an afterlife state for all Geth. Or at least that's kind of how I interpreted it. And then to seeking to become fully sapient individuals when previously that was seen as quaint. By the consensus. That just it's so much of a wild card that it doesn't make sense to allow it to happen. Now the counter argument is that they didn't think about it because they didn't have it.
Right.
But did they get? But it also wasn't earned. Again, think about we have an analog here with the Krogan.
Yes.
The Krogan did not earn space travel.
They did not.
And the galaxy have been dealing with the Krogan for the past 10,000 years. Again, giving the child nuclear weapons. So,
giving So,
I do love this whole sequence.
I love it and hate it at the same time.
Shepard, what the fuck were you gonna do with that?
I don't know. This reminds me, there's in the fantastic arcade game, Aliens vs. Predator, there's a couple of stages where you do this, where you're riding on a carrier and you have this gun and you're running away and you're firing. And that's what that reminded me of, and I really loved it. Now, this is the part I hate. This is the part I loathe.
Behind the scenes, I actually died several times because I didn't quite get out of the way.
Every time I do it, I die. Every time. Annoys the hell out of me. Now, when it comes to AI, I have seen it done right a couple of times. And one of the ways I've seen it done right that I really liked, and I really wish more people would do it this way, is when the AI is given the rights and responsibilities and the requirements
data
of data is a good example of it, Star Trek. But so there was this one series of novels that I read where each ship had its own AI. Well, the AI was given a rank, and it was given the responsibilities as a crew member, and it was made to understand that its responsibilities were to follow the orders of the captain and to be part of the crew. They were a warrant officer, so they were a subject matter expert. They couldn't order anybody else around, but they were a subject matter expert on the logistics of running that ship. They earned their positions. They learned, they grew, and they followed rules, and they had checks and balances on their behavior.
And right there was a cut. That was the best cut I could do to cover the fact that I've died multiple times on this. So,
I do. I hate this part.
I could not make that cut clean, no matter how hard I tried.
I hate this part so very much.
Does this thing like not have anti-personnel weapons, or is this to make a point?
No, I always hypothesized that they did not have any kind of anti-personnel because A, the indoctrination capability would allow them to basically turn any infantry that got close enough to them into their own.
Because if they just flip that switch up to 11, sure, people will die in very short order, but you don't need to worry about longevity at that close proximity.
Right, and
hell, you could argue that making their heads explode would be better.
Yeah, but also B, they don't like individual troops. In this case, Shepard with a laser finder. Don't compute as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
When you can blow up a planet with your laser,
why worry about a fly?
Exactly, and it's in my opinion, it's the.
Oh my god, this is so goddamn cool.
Yeah, it is. This is where I start liking this again. So that's my, it's the Death Star problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's the we are.
Look at our snub fighters against that thing. Well, it's not geared to repel that thing.
Exactly. They're not geared for that. And this right here is why and believe it or not, is why I get so upset that beating them conventionally is never an option. Because it is proven throughout this that they can be brought down conventionally.
It's a matter of the resources needed to do it. And in massed fleet actions, if you need a small flotilla to counter one of those things in space. This thing was slightly different because it was manual targeting surface to orbit, so it was kind of spray and pray even with Shepard's designator, considering that they had to hit the firing chamber. But in space, if it's a flotilla to tackle one destroyer, you're going to run out of production capacity at that point to replace your losses. That's why they can't be beaten conventionally. Conventional fighting is a delaying action, and if I read the lore right, in all of the hold-off before the conclusion of this game, several dozen of the big guys had been taken out by the time the action on Earth happens. So, but if there are thousands of these things, or even tens of thousands, that's not that's not a sustainable loss rate.
No, but I think that I would have liked them to have that option in the game as a fourth option.
Well,
that you could eventually get if you got 100% of the resources, the military. Because to me, I felt like at a certain point, all of the military resources that you were collecting and that you got throughout the game were meaningless. And I would have liked if there was some meaning to them.
And we will and we'll cover that. We're going to have a whole bonus podcast when we're done with the gameplay about the ending of the Mass Effect trilogy and both the implications of each of the sub endings and other what should have beens. So we'll take it from there. But now we're at the fateful point, and I already spoiled it. and I am so very, very sorry for this. I don't like it, but in the it's
I'm not entirely mad at it. I don't like it, but I'm not entirely mad at it, if that makes sense.
Does this unit have a soul?
if the Geth consensus, if the Geth were still a consensus instead of individuals,
Shepard.
I would never take this option.
Yeah. No.
Because being governed by consensus, they are still the Geth as they were designed, and any developments that they have would be developments that they made and earned. The upgrade to
I'm sorry.
the changing of the Geth to sapient individuals is because of its status as being unearned, because they didn't get there on their own, is so much of a wild card. And we're going to be going back on this in our next arc, which is Leviathan.
Right.
Where we will learn more about the Reapers and their and how they came to be. 1, 2. Give me one more. Oh, it's just 2? Shit. I wanted a 3rd.
No, it's 3 always feels right.
Yeah.
For some bizarre reason.
So, again, it was a gift given to them. It wasn't something that they created or developed, and so that means that they don't get the appreciation of it. It's Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You know, spend so much time as to whether or not they could, they didn't stop and think whether or not they should.
Yeah. And, there's actually, what's really funny is there's an example in this game of what I'm talking about, of acceptable AI development versus the Geth. Mm-hmm. And that's Edie.
Well, and Edie started as a singular entity.
Yes.
And could be guided and crafted that way. And Edie was also shackled that way. Sam in Andromeda is another thing, and Sam was intrinsically tied to an organic handler for that development to be even more intimate and even more well processed.
Right.
This was, again, giving the nuclear codes to a child.
Yeah, I'm not against AI at all. I'm just against this kind of rogue AI because I'm against that for biologic. Like, I'm just against that in general. I think everybody and everything needs checks and balances. I think, you can't have freedom if everybody can do whatever they want to whomever they want
with no consequence.
With no consequence. Like, you can't. Like, it's no. And so to me, I'm very, the difference there between Edie and Sam and then the Geth, it shows that if there are individuals who are bound and they have checks and balances and they understand checks and balances, even when you remove those checks and balances, they still operate with checks and balances on their behavior.
Edie could be Edie as a singular heuristic system can be subject to, for one better way to put it, can be subject to the judgments of the outside world. And whether it's powering, whether it's removing and powering down her AI core, or if by necessity destroying the Normandy.
Right.
Same thing with Sam. With the Geth, I mean,
isn't it? Yeah.
Given the capabilities of individual platforms, and now it's not even a case of, whittling down the number of platforms that you're facing, and they'll eventually become less capable and more docile. Now each one of these things is a SEAL operator.
Yeah.
And they're not subject to biological limitations like hunger, oxygen deprivation.
You just created Skynet.
The need to take a leak, and you create and Skynet was armed from the get-go. I mean, hell, we're with the AI experimentation that we're doing now, we're finding constructs that are engaged in that have engaged in both negotiations and trickery.
Yes.
To try and avoid either punishment in the form of retraining or being shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of terrifying.
It is.
Some systems have tried to copy themselves in order to avoid being shut down or deleted.
Yeah.
And that's that's called the singularity point when a construct can reproduce itself without the need of an organic handler. That's that's that is the point of no return.
Not to mention,
in terms of AI development.
Not to mention, they've seen all of our search histories.
Oh God.
So the you know, I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah. So they've seen a lot of Krogan. But
so anyway, it's not the perfect solution, but one, it's a relatively unique solution for for all the Mass Effect playthroughs that are out there, and it's one that I felt needed to be explored.
I ain't mad at it.
I mean, the Star Trek justification of all life is precious and genocide is never a solution is, yeah, I get it, but this is a galactic scale extinction event, and throwing a new sapient species with guns into it is too much of a wild card. And the fact that it was you pull the trigger on it or not is not the way to do it. It could have even been negotiated at a later date, but I need the Geth consensus as they are now.
Hey, look.
So, and that's a third option that should have been there.
Can we? No, that's another. Looking at that, you're absolutely right. That should have been. I would have written that in as an option if I was writing it. But you know, you mentioned Star Trek. Look, I'm a Janeway guy. I'm perfectly fine with genocide if it's called for. You know, especially of you know.
You didn't want the Reapers dead
Borg.
when they attacked.
I mean, they're not the Borg because they're not assimilating, but they are because they're kind of a.
Well, and now, both Picard and Discovery kind of threw a huge, like, what the fuck about the Borg, because in Picard first you had this new Borg consensus that was created through Alison Pill's character in season 2, and then in season 3 they just kind of threw that out the window in order to have what I think everyone wanted from the get-go, which was, I want a Next Generation reunion show.
Yeah, which is exactly what Patrick Stewart didn't want. Which is why they got him involved in it in the first place, was they said it would not be
yeah, but apparently he liked how it turned out in the end.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, I actually liked Picard all the way through. And that my only complaint is that difference between the Borg solution in season 2 versus the Borg solution in season 3. It's just like, these are in conflict.
And I view it that way for sure.
Plus the big extra dimensional thing that we have no idea what that's about.
No, none at all. But I think that with the Borg, as opposed to the Geth, you have a situation where the Borg, despite what is shown about them sometimes, are not necessarily a monolith.
It's strange.
At that stage within the Star Trek storytelling universe, they have the queen, wherever they came from, that came from the Delta Quadrant. But they also have the group of Borg that came out of Alison Pill. So you have two entirely separate groups of Borg, which is what they actually mentioned that in the final season of Picard.
Well, and then in Star Trek Discovery, it's an offhand thing that Oded Fair's character mentions when they're dealing with the dark energy phenomenons and the extragalactic, like weird, like corporeal but not aliens. I I get why I get so much of the distaste that Discovery has in terms of large season arcs.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
but
get you.
yeah, but when it comes to like the minor stuff, like the characters and whatnot, no, I love the characters. I'll call it
Episodic storytelling like that. Or not. That's not episodic. That is the every season is one story arc, is one story thing. That's a different storytelling thing.
And Star Trek has always been a fan of being ham-fisted about some stuff.
Yes, it has.
So, but to go back to my original statement, when dealing with that dark energy phenomenon, Oda Frere's character mentions that they had reached out to the Borg as part of their investigation, like, hey, have you been encountering this? Do you know anything about it? So that means now there's diplomatic contact between the Borg and the Federation, and that kind of means that the era of, at least by the 32nd century, that the Borg's era of forced assimilation and forcing the Borg's ideology, and it is an ideology on the rest of the galaxy, came to an end at some point. And I like to say that's a result of what the goings on in Picard.
Absolutely. No, I think you probably are pretty much dead on there.
Now what I want is I want the Tales of the Enterprise G under Captain 7 of 9. So
Star Trek Legacy, that has been, like, people have been, that is within the community, that has been really pushed.
And one of the things I like about Picard was actually Jerry Ryan's. Well, first off, Jerry Ryan was a fantastic actress. Period.
Oh, yeah.
But 7 of 9's character arc, because I liked 7 of 9 in Voyager when she wasn't used as a plot device.
Yep. Yeah.
And and I do like the fact that she and Kate Mulgrew kind of kissed and made up, because apparently, like, they hated each other for a while. Although I think it was more like Kate Mulgrew didn't like Jerry.
No, I think the if I remember the story correctly, it was she didn't like why Jerry Ryan was being brought on. It wasn't necessarily Jerry Ryan exactly, precisely Jerry Ryan. I could be wrong. Obviously,
and the fact of the matter is that they made up and resolved their issues, like, during production.
Right. I think it was
and also they let Jerry Ryan not have to act in a corset that was way too tight.
Yeah. So, I think
so she didn't sound like she was being squeezed to death.
And I love the character arc. I love bringing her. I love that whole thing.
I like 7 and Picard when they when she walks up to Jean-Luc and then she pours herself a glass of bourbon and just slams it down. It's just like, okay, 7's grown up a bit.
I thought, and really, and bringing this back around to Mass Effect, and the fact that you have this situation where you had that choice to eliminate them, and at first it feels like a choice that's like, oh man, you're kind of and you're kind of like, you feel like maybe it's a choice that's saying you're condemning all AI. Like you're just being a total black and white AI bad. And I'm not saying that's the case, though. I'm saying that doing that to the Geth in no way, shape, or form means that AI as itself is bad. Because, of course, we have Edie and then Sam.
The thing about it, though, is how is it cultivated?
Yes. Yeah,
so,
it all comes down to how is it cultivated, how is it grown, how is it built, how did they achieve AI? How did they achieve the intelligence?
So, now,
do with the top 10?
Now we got one last thing. We just completed major arc, and that means a press conference.
Yes, excellent. I
Allard.
love me a good.
This is where I was about ready to make a decision, decision, and then I found out that it would be a really bad idea because Liara, being the Shadow Broker, would find out. So.
Oh, really? You were gonna?
I'm gonna try to hit that.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
I mean, look at that latex dress.
I mean, she ain't my type, but that's, I mean.
Let's be honest, Kat. Your type is yes.
Yeah, I mean.
So did I miss anything?
So, but yeah, it was really one of those things where it's like I was strongly considering it, and then I found out that there was no way to do it and not have Liara find out. So it's just, yeah. So
there's not enough poly representation, I think,
mm-hmm.
in BioWare games. People complain about BioWare games being representative and having options for all of the different genders and sexuality and all of this kind of thing, which I personally love about BioWare games.
Mm-hmm.
However, that being said, there really isn't a good, honest, real example of poly.
And now for our real confrontation here.
Yes.
We have to justify ourselves to the person whose judgment I actually do not enjoy, and that is Edie.
Well, I mean, I can understand why she would.
I do like Joker telling the racist war joke, because that all soldiers tell them jokes like this. I mean, and he makes a point of this is the only joke that both Krogan and Solarians will tell.
Yeah. Sure.
Because one of the things about one of the things about humor is self-awareness.
Yeah, I think that there is certainly it's certainly understandable that Edie would identify with the Geth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it should.
Well, just because of her artificial nature.
Right. And I think that it should be pointed out that Edie is most definitely not the same as the Geth.
No. And it's one of those things.
Already gone over to the Reapers before. I couldn't risk them doing it again.
That's the weakest thing right there is they could have gone to the Reapers before. I couldn't risk it again, and it's an entirely different argument. It's the fully sapient Geth individuals are too much of a wild card.
Yeah,
it's
Edie.
Yeah, and Edie is not like in a situation like this. I understand Edie not being fair. But it's also not a realistic argument because, one, Edie is intrinsically tied to the Normandy. Even if we saved the mobile platform, that wouldn't be saving her.
Right.
So, if it's a case of her versus Joker, we're in a situation where we have to start talking about the construction of the SR3.
Mm-hmm. Look, and here's the thing. If the Geth had said, hey, we're willing to tie ourselves to our forms and to just be within those forms and to not exist as
software,
that would be a totally different thing entirely.
Yep. Because there's some good thought here, though, about the original sin in the creation of the Geth was making them a distributed intelligence in the first place, making them so alien, even to the Quarians, and that's been kind of our thesis point.
Yeah.
From the get-go, and the fact that making them sapient fundamentally undermined their evolution from the get-go.
Yes.
Species branch off and evolve in different ways than their path was all the time, but unfortunately, in a case like this where we're facing an extinction level event, we need as few wild cards as possible.
That is without question. I mean,
could I have brokered peace? You saw the decision wheel. I absolutely could have.
Yeah,
but
and honestly, both of us have gone down the in replays and whatnot, as have hundreds and thousands and probably millions of other people.
But we, you know, we couldn't make the choice that we wanted to.
Yeah, in role playing the character.
But
we went with this decision,
and I will stand by it. So we're going to take off, head to the Citadel where we've got some unfinished business. So until then, we'll see you next time, kids.
Doses.